Hello everyone and welcome to the Creative Noah podcast. Well, we've done it. We've got to the end of another season and it's time for the Creative Noah Season 2 finale. There's no guest this time, it's just me and you, so let's get into it. So where do we start? We've got another 21 episodes in the bag. We've been downloaded over 7,500 times in 85 countries, and we're creeping towards 5,000 followers on the social media. We're growing, and that is very, very cool. But I'm going to be honest, this season hasn't been easy for me for a whole number of reasons. But despite all of that, I am still feeling very, very grateful. I'm grateful for the podcast and everything that it's brought to me. I'm grateful for you guys for listening and supporting. And of course, I'm grateful to all of the guests. And that's probably the first thing I want to do, is to just take the time to thank all of the incredible guests that have come on the podcast. Again, we've had artists, athletes, creatives, coaches, and more. And every guest has had their own unique journey to get to where they are. But there's universal lessons within those unique journeys that we can all take away. So, yeah, thank you. Thank you to all of the guests, all of them for sharing their interesting and inspiring stories, for being so open and honest, and for, once again, trusting me to share the stories with you, the listeners. And that brings me nicely onto you guys. The next obvious thank you for me is to you. Yep, you, whoever you are, listening right now, because without you listening, downloading, sharing, supporting the podcast, well, there wouldn't be much point in having a podcast. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. It really, really genuinely means so much to me. So the biggest thank you definitely goes to you guys. But as it's the season 2 finale, it's time for my final thoughts, some of my personal reflections and recaps on every episode, and you might take completely different things away from the episodes, and that is great. But these are just, as I say, I've got my notes, and these are just my personal, musings on each episode. But also, if you haven't listened to an episode yet, then this might be a good chance for you to find the episode that's for you. So let's start at the very, very beginning, which seems like an awfully long time ago now. Episode 22. PJ Ellis, we make a life by what we give.
We make a living by what we get. We make a life by what we give. So that was what I used to think my purpose was. What I get, what I receive, what money I earn, my wages, the watches I bought, the car I had, the house I had, the curb appeal. But I'm making a life now, and unknowingly so, by what I'm giving. We make a life by what we give. So we give perspective, we give time, we give opportunities, presence, energy, love, happiness, conversation. I think actually the second you get to know that, what a life you'll lead. There's always, in a world where you can be anything, be kind, all that sort of stuff. That stuff is massive to me.
And hearing your story and your mum's story, that's obviously a legacy from her.
Yeah, she's usually the kindest person I've ever met.
Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way. And so, therefore, it's so important to consider this question: what do I desire?
What a legend. And I'm so glad that I started the season with PJ and his story. I've always wanted the podcast to be a place that inspires others to do the stuff that inspires them. And I kind of ummed and ahed about who the first guest on season 2 should be. Should it be an artist, a musician, a poet, or some quote unquote creative? But when I recorded this episode, I knew that it had to be PJ. Someone who, up until recently, probably wouldn't have even considered himself creative. But someone who is one of the most authentic and inspiring humans that I've met in a very long time. You might remember the name from season 3 of Big Brother, but since then, PJ has had a very inspiring journey. A family, a law career. He's run a digital marketing agency and been part of setting up multiple charities, helping to raise hundreds of thousands of pounds for incredible causes. But most importantly, he's making people smile and having a positive impact on the world, which is something that I'm trying my best to do in my way with the podcast. And PJ's journey is a reminder that sometimes our hardest paths can lead us to our greatest purpose. And that in a world that seems to be focused on the stuff and the material things we all own, how our legacy ultimately rests on how we make other people feel and what we can give back. Which leads us nicely onto another wonderful human being who is also giving back and trying to help as many other people succeed as they possibly can. The artist advisor, Dean Melbourne. And that's episode number 23. You're not there for the grift. You're there to try and make artists better?
Yes. And it is a constant self-awareness battle of trying to run a business and tell people what the results of working with me could be versus making promises or grifting. So there's a constant self-checking of that. And so I don't talk about that in my marketing. And there is no guarantee that if you work with me, you'll sell more work. But there's no guarantee that you will suddenly attract a curator or a gallerist. However, I suppose that what's implicit in what I do is that I believe that if you pay attention to some of the things that I'm going to help you focus on, you will become, in inverted commas, a better artist.
Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way. And so, therefore, it's so important to consider this question: what do I desire?
As a successful artist himself with multiple solo shows under his belt, Dean has got both the knowledge and the experience in the art world that he's now sharing with other artists and creatives to help them on their journey. And in this episode, we discuss Dean's extensive career, the highs, the lows, and everything in between that gives Dean the social proof to actually be able to call himself the artist advisor. We also talk about some of the grifters or the snake oil salesmen in the art industry who promise success at every downloadable course they sell. But we look at what success actually looks like as an artist. We look at identity and imposter syndrome, and why it's also so important to develop not just the art, but ourselves as well. And not only that, Dean kindly gives us his kind of top 5 tips for artists and creatives. So get your pens at the ready, as you might want to take some notes, because this one is an inspiring episode. But beyond all that good stuff, which I know you're going to love, for me, Dean feels like a bit of a big brother. And it's actually been some of the conversations that we've had post the podcast that have really opened my eyes to who I am as a creative, as an artist. And the conversations have given me a lot of strength to lean into some of the darker elements of my work, which is something that I'm trying to explore much more now. So I will be forever grateful to Dean for that. And if you are an artist or a creative, I do suggest that you give this one a listen. But now let's lighten things up a little bit with our next guest, and you'll see what I've done there in a minute. Jack Kudas from Neon Cow. And you might be thinking, what the hell is a neon cow? Well, it's Jack's business, and the clue's kind of in the name. He makes neon signs, and he helped me design and make the Explore, Inspire, Create sign for the studio. But when I met him, he inspired me so much with his business acumen, his drive, and his determination to succeed that I thought he would make an inspiring guest to come on the podcast. Look, he started out making signs at his mum's kitchen table. And now at just 24, Jack's already achieved what most entrepreneurs probably spend decades chasing. He's created work for huge names like Gymshark, Selfridges, Harvey Nichols, Premier League football clubs, and NFL teams. Look, Jack's story is a reminder that extraordinary things can start small, but if you're willing to put in the work, then the possibilities are endless. So whether you're dreaming of starting a side hustle, building a brand, or just looking for some motivation, then this episode is packed full of insights that you won't want to miss. Episode 24, Jack Kudas, lighting the way to success.
I'm my own boss. I still get up at certain fixed times. Non-negotiables. That's the best way to put it, Matt.
I like that. Non-negotiables. Every day you've got to do those things that make you incrementally better the next day.
Correct. And loads of other podcasts talk about it, but that 1% marginal gains, that's something that's been really with me recently, because a lot of people are aware that 1% marginal gains work in that direction, but guess what? They also go that direction as well. So I'm always conscious of that fact. But yeah, that's really, it's just about getting up, working, because no one's gonna give it to you.
Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way. And so, therefore, it's so important to consider this question: what do I desire?
Episode 25. Don't overthink it, make it. This is a cool one for me because on this episode, we're joined by East London-based artist, printmaker and painter Carl Stimpson. But Carl and I grew up in the same small town. And as we discuss in the podcast, Carl's influences weren't the classic art from the big galleries because, well, it just wasn't easily accessible. Carl's major art influences came from the stuff that was around him, the comic books, the cartoons, the magazines, and the advertising, all of which have helped define Carl's really distinct style of work. So Carl has always struggled with terrible shyness, but his creative talents were recognised by his dad, who encouraged him to pursue a much more creative life and to go and study fine art at university, which essentially set the wheels in motion to a life that's dedicated to creating. In this episode, we discuss Carl's creative journey, from perfecting his craft as a painter and a colorist, to overcoming the hurdles of being painfully shy, and instead of talking, using his art as a means of communicating ideas and emotions to people. We also talk about Carl's multiple solo shows, including a pretty crazy one in Russia, how he sold a painting to Noel Gallagher from Oasis, and how social media is actually brilliant for building your network if you are an introvert. We also talk about, in the purest way possible, that as long as Carl can create, it doesn't matter what it takes. It's all about creating.
Being very shy, my idea of hell is going to a private view where there's lots of people talking. It's not my idea of fun. And I understand that if someone wants to make a living making art, you have to go and talk to people. Even though I'm more confident than I was when I was a teenager, I'm still really shy, and I don't want to do that. But going on social media, I have a network of people, and I know their work, they know my work, and I've been following people for years and then meet up with them. It's just you and them, or just a small group, and it's easier, isn't it? So,
And is that sense of community important to you, despite you being so shy?
yes, and I always have to be reminded of that.
Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way. And so, therefore, it's so important to consider this question: what do I desire?
When do you get to call yourself a proper artist? Is it when you sell your first piece of work? Is it when you've, I don't know, done a master's degree? Is it when you've exhibited internationally, had sellout shows, or amassed a huge social media following?
Or is it when your work is recognised by huge art world names like the Saatchi Gallery or the Royal Academy? Well, our guest on episode number 26, Sophie Derrick, has done all of that and more, and even she sometimes struggles with that question.
I guess I kind of do now. Maybe. I don't know. It always feels weird, doesn't it? I don't know why it feels like a bit. I think maybe I didn't feel like I was until I was doing it like as my job. And that's not to say if other artists have got other things going on, but they're not artists. Just, I don't know. I just felt like, for me, that was just like, okay, now this is literally all my life. So I guess I have to call myself an artist now. I don't know.
I guess what I'm trying to get to is, at the bottom of it all, is that universal imposter syndrome.
Yeah. I was like, I probably can't do it as a job, but I do really think that there's something in this work that I'm making that I really can't let go, and I really want to push it and try and get out there and just see what happens.
Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way. And so, therefore, it's so important to consider this question: what do I desire?
Sophie is a super cool portrait artist who often uses herself as the subject and the canvas. She plays with the real and the abstract and the tactile paint and flat image to create work that's both bold and in your face, but also kind of hidden underneath all these layers, and it's really intriguing. And in this episode, Sophie talks us through her creative journey from studying fine art at Leeds University and finding her distinct style, to some of the challenges of navigating the art world while doing a master's degree at the same time. We talk about the classic, feeling like an imposter, and the solitude of being alone in the studio a lot as an artist with little or no feedback coming your way. And most impressively, what it looks like to create, follow your passion, and be a quote-unquote proper artist while being a busy mum of 3 young children. No easy task, as I'm sure you can imagine. Now, in episode 27, we're joined by another contemporary portrait artist with a bold and expressive style, Emma Woolley. Emma's story is interesting because she spent the last 20 years working as an art director, using her creativity to tell stories, problem solve, and translate ideas for big brands and businesses. But after a series of life-changing events, including sadly losing her mum, she was forced into stillness for the first time in a really long time, and Emma found her way back to painting, realizing that she could use it as a way of finding hope again and a light at the end of a very dark tunnel. Emma uses her work as a way of processing emotions and memories, not only to connect with herself, but also as a way of connecting with other people. And Emma and I really connected on so many levels, but not just through the art and the words, but I guess also just through being open, honest, vulnerable, and most of all, human. In this episode, we discuss everything from the need for creatives to feel fulfilled, the use of art to process some of those tough emotions, why storytelling is so important, and why connection never stops, and why it's one of the most important things for us humans to hold on to.
The Wonder series is me processing the death of my mum. I just knew I needed to paint, and I knew that it was good for me, for my mental health, really, and that was what it was. A way of connecting to myself, and it was a way of, God, how can I explain it?
Cathartic.
Yeah, very much. There was no big story, big idea. It was literally just paint for painting's sake, for the act of painting. I found a reference image that I was really drawn to, and there's a kind of a real softness about that piece of work. It's about contemplating. It was wondrous. What it was about really underneath was that there is hope, that there is light at the end of the tunnel. So I'm processing grief now through the act of painting. The whole act of painting something like that, it helps you to feel, I don't know, it uplifts you. It uplifts you.
Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way. And so, therefore, it's so important to consider this question: what do I desire?
I think for me, there's lots of different answers to that question, isn't it? But I think they all come back to, I guess, trying to have a positive output and input. I work really hard, I do lots of different things. And when I get moments where I can see the positive impact, like I love the work that I do, I think I'd probably do it if nobody ever paid me to do it. And so I think what I was thinking about is, if you can't stop and feel like the stuff that you've done has been positive for you or for other people, then what's it all about? So, for me, what it's all about is having a positive input and have a positive impact.
Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way. And so, therefore, it's so important to consider this question: what do I desire?
That was poet, writer, educator, and performer Casey Bailey from episode 28. Words can change your life. Casey is a storyteller and from a young age realised the power of words to influence people in both a positive and, well, sometimes a negative way. His work spans poetry, music, theatre, books, and TV, creating work for both the Commonwealth Games and the hit TV show The Peaky Blinders. But as you heard, at the core of it all is education and community. And for Casey, it's all about being a positive input to create a positive impact. And that's, again, something that I'm trying to do with the podcast. So Casey seemed like the perfect guest to get on. But things could have easily gone very differently for Casey. Growing up in an environment of crime, poverty, and gang culture, Casey had to kind of balance these two lives. One studying for university and then the other in and around the streets. A balance that nearly cost him his life. While trying to defuse the situation, Casey got stabbed. A life-changing moment that could have gone either way. But luckily, Casey chose to turn that negative into a positive. And what he's achieved as a result has created an unquestionable impact on so many people's lives. And in this episode, we discuss all of it. Casey's journey from being kicked out of English class to becoming Birmingham's Poet Laureate, what it's like to be stabbed and how he balanced those two lives. We talk forgiveness and, most importantly, how not to be defined by our mistakes. And I'm not sure how I've done this, but as we're talking about mistakes, our guest on episode 29, art psychotherapist Claire Hilton, would probably argue that in creativity, there are no mistakes. Not the most seamless segue I've ever done, but you get where I'm going, right? Well, in this episode, we explore the difference between art therapy and having a creative practice that feels therapeutic. Because for many of us, art is a way to express something or communicate a feeling, often with a sort of finished piece in mind. But art therapy isn't about creating a final outcome. It's about connecting with ourselves and exploring what's happening beneath the surface and really just focusing on the process. And as an art psychotherapist, Claire witnesses that process and can help join the dots of what may be going on internally for her clients. And this one was a massive eye-opener for me, and one that I needed to hear for myself and learn from, really, to overcome some of the hurdles that I've got with my own art and my own creative practice. So we discuss why there's no such thing as good or bad art, how to overcome the fear of things not being perfect, the value of making art that no one ever sees, and how creating anything always comes with a risk.
Every time we sit down to make art, it's like a risk, because there is a risk that we're being vulnerable and that we might end up with something we don't like. That's the whole process, isn't it? We hold a lot of things about our experiences, good or bad, in terms of the experience and how we internalize that in our body. And making artwork and being creative involves a lot more than just any part of us. Uses a lot of somatic feelings, a lot of feelings in our hands and things in our brain and thoughts. Making stuff just encompasses all of that, which is how we experience the world.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that right now.
It makes sense to me that making things can help to process trauma. It can help to process our own experiences. It can help us to learn more about ourselves. And some of that process may or may not benefit from being in a room with another person. Some of that could just be your own practice.
Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way. And so, therefore, it's so important to consider this question: what do I desire?
So, episode 30 was all about purpose. And I'm going to be honest, at the time of us recording this episode, for a whole number of, let's just call them behind the scenes reasons, I'd actually been questioning whether or not to stop doing the podcast. So, sitting down with author, businesswoman, and strength coach Hannah Miller came at exactly the right time for me. Hannah specializes in helping to guide people to live lives with more intention and purpose. And she has quite literally written the book on it. Now, it might seem like a massive question, but are you living your life with purpose? Maybe it's something that you haven't even thought about until right now. Or maybe you think it's about finding that single grand calling or once in a lifetime revelation that's reserved for those lucky few who've just managed to get it all worked out. Well, it's not. It really isn't. Hannah explains that finding our purpose can happen for anyone in any situation, as long as we're willing to do the work. We discuss how purpose is something that builds, something that evolves and shifts over time when we understand who we are as people and our values. It's something that's already in us based on our talents, our personalities, and our life experiences. And Hannah goes on to explain why purpose isn't just about discovering what you're here to do, but actually about who you're here to be.
There's always been a question around purpose. What is purpose? It goes right back to early philosophers about this idea of purpose. But the problem with a word like purpose and capital P purpose is it then feels like this nebulous thing that perhaps
Scary.
5 or 10 people, the big celebrities or people who have mega callings can find.
Reserved for those lucky
reserved
few
for a
who go,
lucky
they've
few.
always known what their thing was.
Exactly. Whereas I feel like demystifying it, normalizing it, and I think the journey of understanding more about ourselves and purpose is that kind of idea of getting closer or getting further away. Yeah. And when we've got certain understanding, like understanding our personality, understanding our blind spots, knowing our values, knowing how we self-sabotage, getting feedback from others, when you've got that data, you can use that to get you 5 feet closer or 5 feet further away. And that's what I would say purpose is am I getting closer or further from the stuff that is made for me to do?
Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way. And so, therefore, it's so important to consider this question: what do I desire?
Now, what can I say about the guest on episode 31? Well, he's a stranger that became my brother because, well, look, based on some of those behind the scenes reasons that I mentioned earlier, I took a trip to Barcelona to try and get lost. And it may sound very counterintuitive to people, but to be alone in a massive city. And then I met Lolo. Lolo's a creator, a graphic designer. He draws. He's a DJ, a music producer, and he's got his own record label. And he uses all of these ways to express himself creatively. But this episode isn't really about the work. It's, I guess, again, about two people connecting through vulnerability, honesty, openness and the strength that comes along with that. Because casual and meaningless are everywhere right now. And those real connections are very rare. And finding those connections in a world that seems, well, increasingly disconnected is what the podcast is all about. It's what I'm all about. It's all a little unusual, but when you feel that connection, sometimes you just have to act. And this episode is the epitome of that. It was completely unplanned, just two humans who the universe aligned in a city of over like 2 million people, and who found a connection through that honesty, vulnerability, art, darkness, and the beauty that can be found in some of that darkness. Now, might sound hippy dippy, but I believe that everything is connected and that I was always supposed to meet Lolo. But we do go in deep on this one. We talk about the journey and we discuss difficult topics like grief and loss, and how leaning into some of those harder emotions and connecting to the deeper side of ourselves is often where you'll find the most beautiful stuff. He doesn't call himself an artist. He's an expresser, and his name is Lolo.
Well, yeah, it's cheesy saying it, but there's no light, there's no dark. Yeah, everybody knows that. So I think if you want to make good art, or if you want to express yourself, you should get like fully connected with your feelings. How is normal like that the deepest emotion or the bizarre feelings or the dark feelings are always like in the most deep part of yourself? Well, to access that thing, you have to be connected to your deeper side. And that's the only way that you can extract the deeper things and bring them to the outer layer of your thing, order of layering your brain. And that is also connected to art and expression.
Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way. And so, therefore, it's so important to consider this question: what do I desire?
Now, I can imagine that you all might be getting a little bit bored of hearing the dulcet tones of Mr. Alan Watts at the end of every one of those clips. But I'm going to be completely honest with you. I'm not a very good editor, and cutting it off short just sounded so awful. So just feel free to skip the last 10 seconds of each one. I will not be offended. But that does lead me nicely onto the next guest in episode 32. Someone who is definitely not worried about offending people. Artist Mr. Edwards. Mr. Edwards describes his work as a pop dada party filled with a cast of characters that are all of his own making. And as long as it makes him laugh, anything is fair game when it comes to creating. And this one was a much needed fun one. And we discuss his whole journey from studying at St. Martin's and the Royal College of Art to a career spent as a designer working for ID and then running his own agency, Nice, where he was working with loads of high-profile clients. He's a collector of all things visual, and we discuss all of that and so much more, like the big decision to emigrate to Australia and the shift that pushed Mr. Edwards towards the art and towards creating without worrying if people do get offended or not, because, well, sometimes they do get offended. But why toe the line when troublemaking is such a great pastime?
Why do you have to be happy instead of just being normal?
What does that mean to you?
That means that people think that being normal is just towing the line and doing this, not making any ripples, and how dare you, you're trying to be happy makes you like a troublemaker.
An outlier.
And I'm into
Just
that.
Stay in your lane.
Troublemaking is a great pastime, I think.
Troublemaking is a great pastime. That shows again in your work, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, I like troublemakers, I think. Well, I think like all street artists are like troublemakers. Comedians are troublemakers, you know.
And would you like to be remembered as a troublemaker?
Yeah, why not?
Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way. And so, therefore, it's so important to consider this question: what do I desire?
Hey, sorry for interrupting. This is just a quick reminder that if you're enjoying this episode, there are a couple of really easy ways that you can support the podcast. You can hit the support the show link in the show notes, or consider grabbing yourself something from the Creative Noahland shop on the website. And don't forget, community members get free shipping on all orders. So, before you buy anything, be sure to join. Thanks again for being part of the Creative Noahland community, and now, let's get back into it. On episode 33, we had another artist and another troublemaker, Blam from Grow Up Art. And like Mr. Edwards, Blam was originally a designer. Blam actually designed the original Trainspotting poster. The transition from designer to artist came much later when Blam and his oldest son Jack began working and creating together as Grow Up Art, producing a wide spectrum of work, all with that comedic sort of potty mouth edge to it. But Blam is now riding solo, and with his influences in punk, his work has taken a slightly more political edge, and he's using his art and creativity, in his words, to call out cunts. The most famous of which being the Third Reich, a piece of work that went viral in 2025, being picked up by the Washington Post, the New York Times, and the Guardian, and a piece that was released for free and has been downloaded over 100,000 times worldwide.
So the Third Reich stuff, so we've done the Musk image, and then Trump becomes president. So yeah, I found these images of proper working people who were serving their country in their military uniform, and it just clicked, it just fell into place. But it looked weirdly camp and weirdly funny, like a Carry On movie. There was this real kind of a subtle hint of humour in it. You don't expect from looking at images of evil Nazis.
So who did we have? We had
Farage, Vance, Musk, Trump, Netanyahu, and Putin.
Right.
All white evil men. So you want to put them up and leave as quickly as you can.
Be quick, have a team, get them up on the street and get gone.
Yeah, get them and go.
What happened on that day then?
I just stopped the street. It was almost like a performance of how they're putting another one up, and there were just murmurs. And we had a couple of people who didn't understand it, because it's quite, you first see it for the first time. These guys pro-fascist or anti-fascist. So it takes a while for people's brains to just go, well, it's definitely anti-fascist. But some people do completely misinterpret, think you're being pro.
Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way. And so, therefore, it's so important to consider this question: what do I desire?
This is another really interesting episode, and it's one that's really helped the reach of the podcast. Blam is such a wonderful man, and he's opened so many doors by introducing us to so many people, incredible artists, gallery owners, all sorts of people that realistically, he should probably have his own sponsored season. So Blam, I just want to say a massive thank you for that. Again, I'll be forever grateful. Now, episode 34. Do I Make You Feel Uncomfortable? With my mate, Claire Riley. Now, as a teenager, Claire was diagnosed with ME and later bipolar disorder. Claire talks about her current body of work, Do I Make You Feel Uncomfortable?, where she's exploring her own mental illness through self-portraiture. The project is, in her words, honest, brutal, surprising, and maybe a little bit ugly, but it's also very, very real. It's a project that Claire hopes can open up more conversations about mental health and hopefully help other people who may be going through something similar. And to me, it's incredibly brave and a project that's inspiring me to try and be more honest in my own work. But in addition to being a practicing artist, Claire is also a marketing manager for an art gallery. Claire gets to spend her days talking about and being surrounded by art and artists. But not only that, she gets to be behind the scenes of a gallery and understand how it all works, which gives her a very unique perspective. And as a result, Claire has learned some great lessons that she kindly shares with us on the episode. Most important of which being, don't let anyone tell you that your work isn't good enough. If you believe in what you're doing, then you've already won.
But then having those conversations with people, those educational conversations with people at work, when they're like, I've seen what you're doing, I really like it. You'd have those conversations. I'd be like, oh, okay, I can develop this. So that's what I mean by an education.
Opening people's eyes and in some ways trying to help educate people.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah, definitely. But also it's helping me because it's just like, I can show myself without that mask. Yeah, I'm still going to go to work with my war paint on and my hair straight and not wearing like joggers covered in paint. But I am showing the side of me that is just like me. I just think as I've got older, I'm just like, oh, fucking can't be bothered with this. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I haven't got time in my life for that. So I'm just going to be me.
Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way. And so, therefore, it's so important to consider this question. What do I desire?
As I've said before, the aim of the podcast is to bring you interesting and inspiring guests. And on episode 35, we were joined by someone who inspires me regularly and pulls me out of my comfort zone at least 3 times a week by trying to punch me in the face. My boxing coach, my friend, and armchair philosopher, James Collings. And you might be thinking, why did he have a boxing coach on the podcast? Well, we discuss how boxing is an art. It could be considered as one of the ultimate forms of creativity, as it requires skill, imagination, and split-second problem solving. James describes it as violent chess, but with consequences, and it can teach us more than we might ever imagine about not only ourselves, but about life. We go into detail about the benefits of combat sports like boxing to take you out of your comfort zone, to build resilience, humility, and the perseverance to keep going through adversity. We talk about strength, vulnerability, and how to stop being held back by fear of being judged because, well, realistically, no one will ever judge you harder than you judge yourself. We also discuss philosophy and the importance of having strong values, smiling at strangers, and enjoying your life. And James explains why it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
Would you advise people to do things that push them out of their comfort zone? Yeah, it's an obvious answer for me.
But I'd heavily advise any combat sport. You're going to learn so much more about yourself. Whether you just do it for a year or 2 and then take what you learn into something else. Again, you're going to be so deflated to build yourself back up and then humbled again and build yourself back up. Feel like you're drowning for 6 months to a year of your training. There's beauty in that. You don't realise until after. You go, I'm just fucking shit at this. You're not. You're doing what everyone else has done, and now they're great at it. And then to take that perseverance into whatever you want to do, especially your creative stuff. You're surrounded by all this artwork that you've done that you're not going to show to anyone. It's fucking good stuff. But then you might think, oh, why have I done that? If I could sell it to whoever, it doesn't matter because you've done it. Drowned for 6 months doing all this stuff. Now you can take what you learn from that.
There is something to be said in there for do first.
Yeah.
Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way. And so, therefore, it's so important to consider this question. What do I desire?
For the next episode, I wanted to get this guest on because I simply just fell in love with the work. It's so cool. And it actually turns out that we have a few mutual friends in common. So the guest on episode 36 was Aisha Bibi from Sketch Avenue. Now, looking at Aisha's work, it might be hard to believe that she only began working in ceramics a couple of years ago. But she took on the challenge of learning the new skill head on and now creates the most incredible pieces, which are often abstract yet ergonomically designed and inspired by everything from architecture, the Bauhaus movement, and even pop art. Now, she may be relatively new to ceramics, but Aisha has repeatedly sold out her collections and her work can be found in locations all over the world, including LA and Dubai. But not only that, in 2025, Aisha featured on the UK TV show Be Your Own Boss, where she was mentored by Not on the High Street founder Holly Tucker, which helped give Aisha more confidence to push forward and develop Sketch Avenue further as a business and a brand. And I urge you to go and check out the work because, as I say, it is super cool. Episode 36, Sketch Avenue.
I'd say that the ceramics I create are abstract, quite architectural. Again, goes back to my interior architecture background. Really bold. Yeah, they speak for themselves, I think. Ergonomic, because that's where we're heading with tactile and people with motoring difficulties and things like that. So that's a big part of my ceramics. And it's given me like somewhere to put colour where I didn't always have that advantage when I was in interiors because it's limited by the client and not everyone wants to go wild.
Yeah. And that's how I would describe it. I've described it as sort of like pop art in ceramics.
Yeah, pop art, Bauhaus, you know, a bit of brutalism, kind of all mushed together. So even from the early stages, a lot of the work that I was making was architecturally inspired, very kind of modernist, with the natural colour of the clay exposed, as well as all the kind of bright, bold shapes and colours.
Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way. And so, therefore, it's so important to consider this question: what do I desire?
You've probably already worked out, I love using the podcast to shine a light on the people in my world who are doing amazing things. Well, this one is no different, because on episode 37, we were joined by my wonderful friend, Gary Bonnick from Wear Change. Gary and I used to volunteer together 10 years ago, and now Gary, along with his wife Shannon, runs a business called Wear Change, a shop and an online platform that sells a wide range of vintage and pre-loved clothing and paraphernalia. Wanting to do something a bit different in a world filled with fast fashion, Wear Change focuses on sustainability, building community, and giving back to the people around them. They've recently signed a partnership with the Salvation Army, under which a percentage of all sales from Wear Change will go directly to them and the amazing work that they do in the community. In this episode, we talk about Gary's journey, the early days where, as most of us did, he was kind of searching for direction. We talk about his evolution and the passion and drive that he's now found starting and running Wear Change alongside his fantastic wife Shannon, who's supporting him every step of the way. We also talk about having strong work ethics, the lessons that we can all learn from failure, why rejection is simply a sign of redirection, and why there's an opportunity for everybody to win.
Everyone can win that way. It's just a case of just seeing an opportunity in something as well, which can only benefit what you've got going on. So I'm for the challenge, brother. I'm here for it as well.
But it goes exactly back to what I said. It's you, it's your energy, it's your passion.
I'm here for it. We're here for it. We are all about working with you, not working against you. It should be bigger than us, and we can grow and do that. I just think there's opportunity in a lot of different stuff, and there's stuff here for everybody. Everyone's just trying to navigate how they're going to go about it. But at the end of the day, if you don't have the work ethic, if you're not going to work hard about doing it, and you're not going to constantly evolve, then it's not going to succeed.
Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way. And so, therefore, it's so important to consider this question: what do I desire?
Surrender to the process. Episode 38. This was a really special one for me because we were lucky enough to be joined by award-winning photographer, visual storyteller, and artist, Emma Brown. Emma's work sits at this kind of intersection of art, humanity, and process. And she creates these stunning images using a technique called wet plate photography. And since finding that technique, she's completely immersed herself in this historic process that was developed in the 1850s. It's raw, unforgiving, and a beautifully imperfect form of photography that Emma describes as a dark mistress, full of magic and ritual, where you just have to surrender to the process. And it was even more special because before we recorded the podcast, Emma was kind enough to take my picture so I could get to experience having my portrait taken in this most magical way. And it's an experience that I've never had before. It's a strange one, a photographer having their portrait taken by a photographer. And I'm just so grateful for all of these doors that are opening and the possibilities that are coming from doing the podcast.
I think I will never get bored of that, and that's why I love this process so much. If you get bored of seeing that image come up, then this isn't the process for you. It's magical.
It's magic. The picture comes out of the fog. It's exciting. It's magical, but you do have to surrender to the process because
totally.
There's
and
stuff
that's
that you
what I
can't
love
control.
about it. I love the ritual. It's a meditation, I think, for me. Like when I get in there and I'm just about to pull the plate, I take a breath and a moment, and then I go. And sometimes it falls away, and you just do. The process just happens, and you're doing it. It's not that it doesn't need presence of mind, but it's just such an ingrained ritual in your mind and in your body. You can just go, and that just feels really lovely to be in that place with this process where it feels, like I said earlier, it feels like home. It feels very natural for me now.
Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way. And so, therefore, it's so important to consider this question: what do I desire?
And now we're getting towards the end, the last few episodes. There's a certain beauty in the banal, the everyday stuff that many people may overlook. And on episode 39, we were lucky enough to be joined by an artist who has turned his ability to see this beauty into a 10-year project. Tom Hicks of Black Country Type. Black Country Type is Tom's ongoing photographic project, and it's a project that's been described as willfully mundane, gently humorous, but with a mournful edge, which I just thought was kind of beautiful. It's a project that he's turned into a book, seen him have multiple solo exhibitions. He sells his art in galleries and privately. His work has been featured in major publications like The Observer and The Guardian. His images have been commissioned by record labels and other brands. He's created sculptures, worked with poets, and he's just published book number 2, a book that the legendary rock god Robert Plant of Led Zeppelin fame has called a work of genius. Well, there's not much I can say that can really compete with Robert Plant, is there? No, let's face it, it's Robert Plant.
The term artist is important because I don't really see myself as a photographer. I'm not a trained photographer. But what it's doing is photography is letting me put across these ideas, atmospheres, colours.
So do you consider yourself an artist?
Yeah, rather than a photographer. Yeah.
And you find that easy to say you're an artist?
Yeah.
Because I think we,
people stumble with that.
People stumble.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is there's lots of talented people in the world, I guess, who they've got great talent. And they might show one or two people, but don't put it out there because they feel a little bit self-conscious or vulnerable, worried about it, which is a shame.
Yeah.
I think if you sit on things and don't ever show it to people, that's fine as well. I think people do personal projects and they never go anywhere.
Making for the sake of making, but it is to be shared for sharing.
Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way. And so, therefore, it's so important to consider this question: what do I desire?
I like flares. I like saying the word flares in a very comical, cockney way. The older I get, the more vital they are to me. And I think if you be brutally honest, it came down as people like flares. Yeah, I like flares too. They sell, don't they? And you start to sort of
you mess about with them, and then you start to get into them, and then they become like part of you. And without even knowing it, you're just going, I'm doing this for me. I thought I was doing this to make money. And you just think, like, I like this, and I'm pretty sure other people will. But then it takes hold of you. You suddenly just go, I just want to work with flowers forever. And then you start to ask questions about yourself, which is like, why is everything almost degrading? Why is everything coming apart? Everything seems to cascade, petals fall off. I love progression. That's why I didn't realise it up until about 6 months ago. I like progression. I need them to grow. I need them to look like they're actually growing. I need them to look they've done it themselves. That's the key. That's the gem. You've got to make it look like it's grown like that.
Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way. And so, therefore, it's so important to consider this question: what do I desire?
I love this guy. He's a big man with an even bigger heart. And on episode number 40, we were joined by Roscoe Britton. And what can I say about Roscoe? He's an artist, and yeah, he loves flowers and nature. He creates collages, wallpaper, t-shirts, and now 3D sculptures that you should definitely all check out because it's all incredible stuff. But as you'll hear when you listen to the episode, he is so much more than that. He's a cacophony of creativity, but not just creativity. He's a cacophony of incredible energy as well. And it's so infectious. He's someone that wants to get the most out of life, someone who loves progression and wants to always be growing. He's a glass half full kind of human being, and he's funny. He's really funny. And on the episode, we discuss everything from having no plan, why style can be limiting, blagging your way into galleries, faking it until you're making it, and even then still probably faking it a bit. But we also talk about love and legacy and psychology and confidence and why they won't remember, but I will. And then that takes us to the penultimate episode of the season, which was a bit of a controversial one because on episode 41, I was joined by AI creator, marketer, and self-confessed romantic, Terry Travato. And if you haven't listened to this one and you see the words AI and you think I'm going to immediately start reaching for the pitchfork, then I think it's really important to say that this conversation is actually really about creativity rather than technology. Because Terry's journey began long before AI entered the mainstream. She worked on the edges of the fashion industry, assisting stylists in New York and trying to carve out a place for herself in a world that often felt difficult to access. Fashion was always the dream, but like so many other creative people, she found herself constantly looking through a window rather than being invited through the door. And then she found AI. And what started as simple curiosity quickly became an obsession. And armed with years of experience of styling, photography, advertising, and fashion, Terry discovered a new way to bring the images in her imagination to life. For the first time, she could create exactly what she saw in her mind without needing a studio or model or someone like me, a photographer, or even the actual clothes. In this conversation, we talk about Terry's route into the fashion industry, the frustrations of trying to break into a notoriously difficult world, and how an unexpected fascination with AI became the creative outlet that she'd been searching for. We explore the relationship between technology and creativity, discuss the difference between art and commerce, and ask whether AI is really something that artists should be afraid of. We also discuss gatekeeping and what it feels like to be seen after years of being overlooked. We talk about creative identity and, really, what it feels like to feel like the ultimate imposter.
And that's the thing. This is like you say imposterism. This is like the ultimate imposterism because not only with AI do you feel like an imposter.
Do you feel like an imposter? Even though, I mean...
I definitely understand where everyone's coming from when they're just like, fuck you. Like, we can... I get it. I totally get it. But I also at the same time, I'm just like, sorry, I just wanted to make something. Yeah. It looks good and somebody liked it enough to maybe buy it. So... it's like a weird thing where I feel like I'm a fraud, but at the same time, I know how much work I'm putting into this.
Yeah.
I know how much time and dedication I put into this. But I vary between feeling like a dick, and I vary between feeling like I should own this. I've put my heart and soul into this, even if it's through a machine. This is what I had in mind.
Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way. And so, therefore, it's so important to consider this question: what do I desire?
And last but not least, the final episode of season 2 of the Creative Noah podcast. And I know I keep ranting on about it, but it's always been my goal to use the podcast to have conversations with interesting and inspiring people from all walks of life. And for me, they don't get much more inspiring than the guests on the final episode. Not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 Olympic athletes. Brad Hall, Greg Cackett, Taylor Lawrence and Leon Greenwood, the British bobsleigh team. We've spoken before about creatives adopting more of an athlete's mindset when it comes to thinking about and achieving their goals. Well, on this episode, we get a direct insight into the minds of some of the best in the world. We discuss each team member's route into the unconventional sport of bobsleigh and the hurdles that they've overcome to achieve history-making success as a team. We talk about setting goals and the discipline that's needed to stay focused on them, and how it's not always the big things, but often the little things that you do every day that can make the most difference.
I wouldn't say there's secret formula or anything like that. Set your one main goal and make sure you do everything in your power to get there, but enjoy it, because if you don't enjoy it, then by the time you achieve that goal, it might feel a little bit underwhelming.
Taylor said the goal, the North Star, I try to bed down in values rather than physical output. So by values, what is it I actually want to do in this world? What do I actually want to achieve? What do I actually want to be a part of? But I'm just trying to do a bit of good. I want to have a positive impact. Then it does bring me back to center.
Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work. So yeah, if you put yourself into a room and you're the hardest one working in there, surely find that you'll start to become talented yourself. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Your strengths, touching them a little bit. Weaknesses, they're the things you need to double down on. If you want to be successful, you need to work on your weaknesses. It's as simple as that. If you don't work on your weaknesses, you ain't going to be successful. By failing over and over again, that is when you become successful.
Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way. And so, therefore, it's so important to consider this question: what do I desire?
Again, as I say, an important episode for me to end on, because I've known these boys for a long time now. And as I've said before, there's a lot that we quote unquote normal people can learn from these elite human beings, because they are 4 Olympians. They're in the top 0.00017% of the world. And they've inspired me so much over the last few years that I just know that they're going to inspire you too, whatever journey that you're on. And this was also a chance to try out some new software, because this was the first time of all of the podcasts that I've recorded one online. Every other podcast up until now has been me sat face to face with the guest. So doing it online was also something that I had to try and get used to. But it was also the first time that I've recorded with more than one guest. And recording with 4 guests and using this new software just kind of seemed like we were throwing ourselves in at the deep end a little bit. But apart from a few issues and a few teething problems, I think it sounded pretty good, right? And it's something that I'm definitely going to explore more of in season 3. Look, I much prefer sitting with someone face to face and in person. There's more of a connection. You pick up on way more things, and you definitely kind of feel like you're in it together much more. But that also comes with its limitations. The biggest one being I'm obviously limited to where I can go to record. And there are guests that I would love to come on the podcast from all over the world. So using this new software opens up a lot of guests that would have previously been completely out of reach. And yeah, I'm sure there's loads of people out there thinking, yeah, he's a dinosaur by not doing this sooner. But you've got to kind of remember, I am a bit of a dinosaur. I am a photographer who is learning to be a podcaster as I go. But we'll get there. And hopefully the podcast just keeps growing. So what's next? Well, I need a break. I set the target of another season of 21 episodes, and we've done it. We've reached it. And I love doing the podcast, but it's not easy. So I think it is important for me to just pause, reflect, and take stock for a bit. Because it's funny, when I started this season, I thought I was creating the podcast to inspire people to do the things that inspire them, right? That's what I say on the podcast all the time. But maybe I didn't realize quite how much I needed it myself. Because as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of stuff that's been going on this season behind the scenes. And let's just say it's been a year. And I wrote in a journal recently that it's been a year that could make a good man cruel if you let it. And I'll be honest, if it was just happening to me, I'm sure, I know myself, I would have been able to reframe it and find the lessons in it. But it wasn't just me. Some of the people closest to me that I love with everything that I have been fighting some really tough battles of their own too. And that is so difficult for me to watch, being the person that I am, because yeah, I am a bit of a fixer and I want everyone around me to be all right. So that's difficult when you feel a bit helpless and can't help them. But look, so much has happened. And it's not for the podcast really, but the universe just felt like it kept throwing punches at me and some of the people that I love most in the world. And there were moments where I genuinely questioned myself, why I was doing this. I thought about stopping the podcast, as I said, but all of this stuff can only make you cruel if you let it. And that's not me. And yeah, with a bit of reframing, you go, well, life has given you the opportunity to practice what you preach. And I've done that. I chose hope when it would have been much easier to give up, to stay open when it definitely would have been easier to close off, and to keep showing up for myself and the people around me every day, even when maybe I didn't feel like it. And I guess in some ways to prove to myself that I am who I say I am, even when no one's watching. And the podcast became a big part of that. Look, I know myself. I'm stubborn. I set goals and I don't like giving up on things. And I'd set a goal with a podcast and I wasn't going to give up on that either. As I know myself, let's face it, if I had stopped, I would have only beaten myself up more and self-flagellated myself for not completing a task that I'd set myself. But with every episode that we completed, every conversation, I just became a little bit more determined to keep pushing, because sometimes the only way out is through. And then there was you lot, the people who listen and support the podcast, the messages of encouragement that I've been sent. Every person that said an episode has helped them in some way, shape or form. Every subscriber to the community and every new follower on the social media. You reminded me that it's now kind of bigger than just me and it's having a positive impact. And that's feeling like it's becoming part of my purpose in some way. But there were times that I honestly wasn't sure that we'd get here, but we have, and I'm proud of myself. And yeah, oh, fucking hell, that feels really wanky to say out loud, but I am proud of myself. Not because everything worked out perfectly, because in a lot of cases it really didn't, but I'm proud of myself because I didn't quit. I didn't quit on myself. I didn't quit on the podcast, and I didn't quit on the people around me. But this year and this season of the podcast have taught me so many lessons that are going to shape my life, my art, the podcast moving forward, the person I'm becoming moving forward. I've realized how much purpose comes from connection and how important connection is to me. There's stuff that's reminded me of just how much honesty really matters. and that vulnerability isn't weakness. In fact, it's real strength. And that living with an open heart is always worth the risk, even if it doesn't work out how you imagined, and how helping someone else or giving your energy to something bigger can often be the thing that helps you more than you might really realize. Now, I normally ask the guest on the podcast for some sort of inspiring quote, but as it's just me and you, it's my episode. So I'm going to give you mine, which you've probably heard me say in previous episodes anyway, but it all seems to sort of tie in nicely to what we've just been talking about. And the quote is, "The greatness of a man is not in the wealth he acquires, but in his integrity and his ability to affect those around him positively." And that's a quote from Bob Marley that's on the wall at the top of my stairs in my house. So I see that every day. And that's kind of at the core of what the podcast is all about. I want it to have a positive impact and to help inspire people to do the things that inspire them. And I hope it is. And I don't know, recently I'm trying to find this balance of my photography work, the podcast, my art, all these things. So I've been thinking a lot about the Japanese idea of ikigai. And it's all about, I'm probably going to butcher this now, but it's all about finding balance between the things that you love, the things that you're good at, the things that the world needs, and the things that give your life some sort of meaning. And I don't think I've found that completely yet, but I think I'm getting closer. And the podcast is definitely a big part of that for sure. And that's kind of enough right now because, as we know, every day is an evolution and it's all about the journey. And so that's it for season 2. I'm going to take a short break, but the Creative Noah Land podcast will be back for season 3. I promise you that, with more interesting guests, more honest conversations, more ideas, more creativity, and hopefully more inspiration. So until then, look after yourselves, and whatever life throws at you, keep going, don't slip, and I'll see you in season 3. Thanks for listening to the Creative Noah Land podcast. If you found anything in this episode useful or inspiring, please consider subscribing or sharing it with a friend. You can also help the podcast by clicking the support the show link in the show notes or by grabbing yourself something from the Creative Noah Land shop. And here's the bonus. When you join the community through our website, you'll get a special discount code that gives you free shipping on all orders. So, before you buy anything, be sure to join the community. Every bit of support helps us keep sharing these inspiring stories. So, thanks again for listening, and until next time, explore, inspire, and create.
Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way. And so, therefore, it's so important to consider this question: what do I desire?